Fresh killer.
What up, tribe? What it do, what it do, what it do? Back in your face on the Zoom screen. So I want to talk about something very important, but also something very touchy as well. And that is, where are we in terms of COVID, in terms of the pandemic? Are we living in a post-pandemic era or not? And if not, what will it take for us to get there? And how do we begin to really assess the damage that was done the past few years? Because I think that that's what it's going to take, as well as some sort of reconciliation between the two sides, the two factions that America has been divided in. It's going to take a very concerted effort to get us back to functioning as a civil society. Why is this on my mind? Well, last night I was honored to be a person that was attending an event at a local high school. This was for an African-American program at that school. The school is predominantly Latino. And so for the Black students, they have a special program for them, and it's run very well. I spoke at this particular program a few months ago, and about the students and their prospects as far as getting into college, and perhaps community college is an option for them. I was doing recruitment, right? I was doing recruitment for my college. They liked it. They brought me back. So at this particular event, man, they took care of us, y'all. They had prime rib, they had mac and cheese and smothered chicken and sweet potatoes and like all the things. For appetizers, they had chicken strips and jambalaya. I'm a food person. I like soul food. That's beside the point. I'm just trying to set it up. They put a lot of money into this end of the year event. I was there as a person that was supposed to be talking to the students about their future, right? It was myself, and there was a lady that worked for a popular radio station. There was a woman that was once a firefighter. There was a brother who was once an attorney. And here I am, the professor of the bunch. And I was there to lace the students up. And how it went was we had dinner, and there were maybe about 7 or 8 students, but they were like there were like maybe 5 or 6 of us adults, and they were rotating. So they were like in pairs, in groups of 2, and they would rotate from table to table. And each table would have a different theme. My theme was persistence, right? And then another the table was like courage and whatever. You get the point. So I was supposed to talk to them about how I use persistence to get to the point where I am now. I was at the table with a sister who was a firefighter, right? And so when the students got to us, they had questions that they were supposed to ask us, or they could freestyle, just ask us questions. We're supposed to talk to them, encourage them. All right. So the students, when they got to us, they were excited when they found out what we did, especially the woman who was a firefighter. And she was the first Black woman firefighter in all of Contra Costa County. And I was honored to be at the table with her. Like, it was dope. And so they were like, ooh, and they would ask a question. And without fail, you all, without fail, follow me now. They would pose a question. And then by the second question, they would like look off. Like I've worked with students since I was in high school. I was in a Future Teachers Academy when I was in high school. And I've worked with students through all type of after school program and Upward Bound and substitute teaching. I've done all type of stuff and work with students. But I've never experienced this before. So they would pose the question, and then at first they would be engaged, and their attention span was like this. And they were like, we were at the same table. Do you understand? I'm trying to create an image of this, a visual. We are at the same table eating, and they would be into their question and ask the question, and then we would be responding, and they would just, so they looking us in our eye at first, and then if we talking, they would look off. So the sister was talking a lot more than I was, because they were like, "Ooh, you ran into burning buildings," like it was whatever. She was a firefighter, right? Not an English professor. Firefighter, English professor, firefighter, English professor. If you're like in the 9th, 10th, 11th grade, you're like, ooh, like you're firefighter. So they were asking her a lot of questions, and she was responding. And so I would try to, and she would like go on, and me, I was trying to make it, my responses shorter. I was trying to work with I was trying to keep their attention span, which I've never had a problem doing. I'm a very effusive instructor. I'm a very effusive professor in the classroom pre-COVID. I'm all around the class. The knocks that students have against me, it wasn't because, oh, it just wasn't engaging. That's just not a knock that people have. Like, I'm just looking at people, reading body language, doing all this stuff. I'm trying to read their body language, but it was hard because they were just gone. Like they were leaving, like a Southwest flight. They're just checking out, right? One of the students noticed, "I'm sorry, I got ADHD," but he wasn't an anomaly. They all were doing this as if that was the point where they would turn their cameras off, because this being their formative years, they have been on Zoom the past 2.5 years. So all the things that they had learned from kindergarten through whenever the pandemic hit for them, 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, whatever, as far as staying engaged and making eye contact and all of those social skills, all of these things you need to do to pass in class, it was gone for them. And they could not, and they weren't trying to be rude, they weren't trying to be disrespectful, but they could not stay engaged. The young lady student, so sweet, 9th grader, just entering high school in her church dress. My goodness, just a very, very, very good-natured and intelligent young lady. Same thing. They were asking and they were trying, right? But they could. So imagine what it does for students. And getting back to my main point, what did the pandemic do to their mind frame and to the way in which they engage with the curriculum and instructors? And imagine learning all this from all of a sudden you are behind a screen. And you know, you got 5 windows open, right? You got your Facebook, you got your Instagram, you might be doing online gaming and all of these things while the class is taking place. And you got your little brother crying, and you might have, you know, your older sister with music on and all these things, right? It's just a lot going on at the same time. I was trying to engage them one-on-one. The sister was trying to engage them one-on-one. It was impossible. I talked to an instructor that works at, because this particular campus, I don't want to give it away because obviously I don't want to put these young people on blast like that. But this particular campus is divided into 2. And I talked to a teacher that I had when I was in junior high school that is now on the adjacent high school, which is like the one that's predominantly Black. But at any rate, and she was just like, everything that we've worked with them on since they came to this school, as far as the Black kids, right? As far as getting them together and getting them ready for college and teaching them how to be great scholars and intellectuals, it's so discouraging because we have to start, after the pandemic, we have to start from the very beginning. We have to start from the ground level. So it was extremely sad to me to try to talk to these students and engage, and I couldn't engage them, and they were sitting at the same table to me, the same table with me, back to this young lady, right? Because it gets deeper. So with this particular young woman, I asked her, I'm just trying to establish conversation. Some of them were more shy than others. This young lady was shy. And I said, okay, you're in the 9th grade, wow. You're done, or you're finishing up the 9th grade. Did you like middle school better or high school better? She is just like, I don't really know. Well, because as soon as middle school started for me, we did distance education. So I can't really compare it. said, oh boy, this child, her whole middle school years, that's 6th through 8th grade, she was, I guess, the second semester of her 6th grade year through her 8th grade year, she was on distance education. And think of all of the things that you learn socially through other students, through being around other kids, all the things that go down when you're in middle school. Imagine missing all of that behind a Zoom screen. It crushed me because something was lacking, and it was very apparent that they had a social handicap. And as we were talking to them, they recognized that, right? And I want to give another example before I just get back to the overall point of what are we going to do and how do we move forward. So a lot of things happened during the pandemic, right? And I don't know, in the state of California, I guess we're really trying to hold on to this, right? Because of our tribalism, because of our political identity is wrapped up in masking and being inside and just being extremely cautious, right? So I feel like in the state of California, if the governor were to announce that the pandemic's over, I feel like there might be some pushback. Some people might be like, well, who are we now? I don't know. It's just wild stuff. But however, okay. So I want to get back to this. I want to get to this thing about what happened, my experience with students, right? Because a lot of things were canceled during the pandemic, right? People had weddings canceled. People weren't allowed to see the birth of their loved ones. They weren't allowed to be in the delivery room. In the beginning, remember, people weren't allowed to go to funerals. My goodness, anniversaries and class reunions and just, so many things were canceled and altered, things that people have been looking forward to for several years. But I'm gonna tell you something. What hurts my heart more than any of those things was the class of 2020, the graduating high school class of 2020. Because they didn't have any prom, they didn't have any senior fling, they did not have a graduation. I had them in the fall of 2020. The students that graduated from 2020, the students that finished high school, there was no graduation, but the students that received their diploma, I guess through the mail, in spring, in June of that year, they came to me. They came into my class, right, as a college professor. And I was teaching with an African-American group at my college, right, a group that works with the African-American students. And I've never seen depression like that in mass across the board in young people. I've never seen anxiety like that and just almost post-traumatic stress, but the traumas were still ongoing. And I had a young sister who told me, and I'll never forget this, and she was struggling. She was struggling in class. I'm trying to reach her on this Zoom screen, trying to talk to her. What's going on? What do we do? How can we turn this around? What kind of assistance do you need? We have support, we have tutors, we have this, we have that. What's going on? And she was not with it, right? Sharp young sister, very capable. In the beginning of the class, she was doing very well, and she just hit an obstacle, right? She hit a roadblock. So the sister says to me about her graduation that she was a first generation high school graduate, right? Nobody before her, none of her siblings, none of them had graduated from high school. And she said to me, imagine working your whole life to experience something to graduate and then just having it being taken from you. And this was, I was crestfallen for her. I didn't know what to say to encourage her or let her know that, hey, you know, there's always college graduation. I don't know, because I feel like the class of 2020 was done super shady, right? If anything, maybe they should have had a class of 2021 and a class of 2020 graduating together, right? African Americans, we go all out when it comes to graduations, right? Especially the first baby, the first person to graduate. Oh my God, you never heard such hooting and hollering and carrying on and balloons and screaming and dancing in all of your life. It's a jubilee. And she had wanted that. And she knew from the time she entered 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade, 10th, 11th, I'm getting closer to this. This is going to happen for me. I'm going to do it. I'm going to break this cycle. She had it taken from her. So I want to get back to my overall point. Follow me, you guys. Follow me. By the way, like this, subscribe to the tribe, please. Rock with me. All right. So, this country was totally polarized, right? And I want to broach this topic with the utmost care. Obviously, it's just this volatile topic, okay? Vaccinated and unvaccinated, and that fell into, Democrat and Republican, and it was overall, but it's way deeper than that, right? It's way more nuanced, but that's the way that the media picked it up, right? Like CNN is for the vaccinated, Fox is for the unvaccinated, which is just terrible. Should have never gotten this way. And so now we're at a point where, okay, we are, even in California, we don't have to mask in anywhere outside of San Francisco. San Francisco is just like, whoa, like San Francisco is going to hold on to the masking like Virginia held on to the Confederacy. That's what's going to happen in the city of San Francisco. But I digress. Outside of San Francisco, we're trying to move back to normal, but we haven't used the proper verbiage, and we have not put all of the effort and all of the media and everything that it took to get people, a society that had never masked before. We're not China, we're not Japan. Not only to mask, but to shame other people that mask, and to believe that if you don't do so, then you are going to kill elderly people. And what about my grandmother? All of that, like in a matter of months. Remember, this happened really quickly, right? Because you couldn't turn the radio on. You couldn't go on social media because you had your favorite celebrity saying, take this seriously, mask. And then later on, it was, be sure to vaccinate. And what I'm saying is that it took a lot. It took a lot to get people to believe that their best option was to stay indoors for days and months and months and months on end. A lot of money, a lot of energy, just a lot to get people to follow that mode of thinking. Here's my point. It's going to take the same amount of energy to get those same people to say, okay, I can feel comfortable and safe without my mask. I can interact with people, whether they are vaccinated or unvaccinated. I can go to a show, a concert. I can go to a school. I can teach in a classroom. I can learn in a classroom. I can get back to being myself, and we can get back to being a social society. In terms of the unvaccinated, the vaccinated, but whoo! So it's going to take so much to bring us back together. It's going to take a lot. A lot of people were hurt during the pandemic. Relationships ended. Families were divided over this. So many events were missed. People weren't invited to the family cookouts anymore. There were fights that went down. All of these things happened. We need some kind of reconciliation. if we are to move forward. Because a lot of trauma is inflicted on people. And now we are somehow in this limbo where in my state, they're like, we're not out of the clear yet. Like, well, will we ever be out of the clear? In the United Kingdom, I want to say it was back in February, Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister, said that we're pretty much done with COVID. Like, we're done with COVID restrictions. We are getting back to who we are. The president, the prime minister, the leader, the ruler of that country made that statement, and they've been, I'm pretty sure, doing everything that they can to get back to a state of normalcy. They know exactly where they stand. Here in the United States, things have not been nearly as clear, to say the least. Now, who's been hurt? Everyone's been affected by it. But I think our primary concern should be our students, our young people who don't know how to interact anymore. Depression has got to be up. Self-harm has got to be up. Just a sense of how do you navigate and move about the world, their dreams. How do we achieve them? How do they even interact with people? How do they just move in a three-dimensional world? And for the class of 2020 that got their graduation taken, how are they supposed to heal if we haven't even acknowledged that they are in pain? I'm seeing this all the time because students come into and I'm still teaching online. I'm still teaching online. In my college, they are still doing COVID tests twice a week. Every time someone tests positive for COVID, they announce it to the whole college. Right now, in June of 2022, they're still doing that, right? And I'm like, we are so totally stagnated. And I just want to say this, right? I don't want to get too political, but I want to say I don't want to get too political on this. I will get political on future videos. I have gotten super political on previous videos, but on this one, I just want to say, if I am in charge of a group of people, which I have been in the classroom several times, and there is something that is dividing the people, right? Then it's on me to kind of check the energy and say, all right, listen, let's talk this out, right? Even if I favor one side, there was violence there was the Stop Chinese Hate movement. There was that happened in early 2021. And there was a lot of viral videos of African-Americans attacking Asian people, right? This impacted my students. I had one class that was like split down the middle. It was like half Black, half Asian, right? Now, for my people that have been following this channel for a long time, you know how like I feel about that. Like, I am a Black person. I feel like the media, there was definitely a media slant on that, and I'm siding with my people through my African-American lens. That's how I view the world, right? But I was able to, let me take a step back and let's just get this conversation started, because we don't need this kind of tension. We need to be together as one so we can finish this class and people can feel comfortable in this space, right? And there's no antagonism or hidden animosity or any of those things, okay? So that's my job, like as a person that's in control of it, right? Our President Biden, is in a situation, obviously he's in charge of a lot more people. He's got a lot more responsibility. I totally understand that. But he is the president of Republicans as well as Democrats. He is the president of people who have taken the vaccine and their boosters, and people that have not gotten a vaccine at all, and everybody in between, right? He's the president of everyone. And for him, if you see that there is something like this that is dividing the country, doesn't it behoove you as the leader of this country to say, all right, let me take a step back from his position. Obviously, he's pro-vaccine, pro-booster, but let me take a step back and because this thing is going to tear us apart, let's try to bring it together, okay? I've not seen anything like that coming from our president. And on down to our governor, on down to the mayors, just everyone, it's almost as if people are so deep within their silos and that they cannot see it from another perspective, and they cannot see that there are people that are suffering. There are young people who are very depressed. There are young people that feel as though they were robbed, trust me. And this is something that needs to be addressed. And now, if we are to move forward into a post-pandemic society, all right? That's how I feel about it, man. I appreciate the listen, gang. Check this out, man. Share this with your auntie. Share this with your lil cousin. Share this with your play brother. Like this, drop a comment, and oh yeah, please subscribe to the tribe. Peace, tribe. I don't know.